Now I'm going to give you another example of cultural dynamics, an example of something that is a cultural system based on meanings, based on ideas that people have about the world. Okay, and this is countries, systems of countries, or to use the more correct scholarly academic term, territorial nation states. Okay, because these are states, they're forms of government that are based on the idea of a nation, a people, and also on territoriality. Okay, so they're territorial nation states, but what we like to call them is countries. Okay, well, how does this work? Let's say we have an island or a continent or whatever you want to be with people on it. Okay, there are all these people living on it, and let's say that a few of the people on the island are particularly prominent, wealthy, or powerful, or for whatever reason they have a relative amount of power in this society. Okay, and these particular people, they don't want to fight with each other, right? They don't want to get into conflict. And one way to avoid having conflict is to say, okay, how about basically you stay on your side of the island, I'll stay on my side of the island, everything will be happy, okay? So they all decide that, okay, that sounds like a good idea. And how are they going to do this? Well, one of the things is that they can draw a map of the island with borders so that they all know where their own territory is, right? So they go about and do this. Once they get themselves organized and find their pen and paper, right? They make this nice map of Islandia, right? And then they've got West Islandia, Lower Islandia, and East Islandia, right? They've sat down and written this all out. Okay, great. So the three of them have this map. Now what do they have to do? Okay. Now the next thing is, though, that these three people who drew this map, they have to let everybody else know about it, right? Because it's not just about them, it's about everybody living on the island, right? Everybody sort of needs to know this in order for the whole system to work. So they can pass this map around, reproduce it in books, teach people about it in schools and so forth, right? And say, look, this is Islandia, and this is the East, and this is the West, and this is Lower Islandia, right? And then just to make really sure, right, they can create things like passports or identity cards or birth certificates or whatever, and issue these to each of the people so that they know which part of this map that they're supposed to be living in, right? So if you live over on that side over there, on the west side, you get a W pass, and if you live on this side, you get an E pass, and down there they get L passes, right? So everybody's got their little passport or birth certificate or ID card so they know where they live. Okay. So in a very, very simplified form again, this is how a system of countries or territorial nation states comes into existence, and it's how it operates. Okay? All of these things, borders, maps, place names, passports, identity cards, birth certificates, okay? These are all ways to symbolically represent the existence of countries. So these are all images, and countries essentially are ideas, right? So countries exist because people imagine them to exist, because people are able to share and communicate these ideas. So this all is, as I've argued, a cultural process, and countries are cultural constructs. Now this is a different set of processes than the way that cities emerge, right, through social exchange relationships. Now of course, in the process of countries emerging, in the process of cities emerging, this doesn't sort of happen in a vacuum, completely outside of, systems of exchange on the one hand or systems of belief on the other. But at their core, in a certain sense, when you strip down what's really happening with countries or nation states and what's really happening with cities, one is the social system and the other is a cultural system. So countries, unlike urban systems, do not exist in the absence of these representations, right? They rely on this representation. Urban systems exist or can come into being in the absence of such a kind of pure representational form.